What's up, family? Welcome back to the session here at Power Up Pawn. I'm excited because this is going to be an incredible. We had some conversation beforehand. It's been fun and it's been amazing so far. Thank you guys so much for being here, for contributing, for Pong, and for asking questions. Right now, we're going to bring up Tali Mack, who is also one of the sponsors of Power Up Pawn. So big thank you to Bravo and the team. Also want to thank M&M Merchandisers and Mid-States Recycling and Refining for sponsoring this event. Without them, this wouldn't have happened. So thank you so much. Without further ado, I want to bring up Mac from Bravo. Everybody knows who Tali Mack. So excited to have her on. Tali Mack, welcome to the Power Up on stage.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure.
So yeah, first, I'm super excited to be here. And if you, today we're doing something a little bit different. So we're going to bring a bunch of people up and we're going to be talking about 5 lessons that we've learned post-COVID. So we're sort of still in the middle of it, unsure when's going to be the end of it. And we might be coming back into it again. And so I think it's pretty safe to say that we're not going to be going back to the way that things used to be, because at the end of the day, consumer behavior has changed. And so I think the best thing that we can do right now is audit what we've learned, document what worked and what didn't work. And the best thing as an organization or as a team leader or as a manager that you can do is make sure that your team is ready and prepared in the future. You want to be able to figure out how quickly you can pivot and what the options that you might want to pivot to are. How agile is your organization? Was it easy to communicate with your customers during this time? And how are you making sure that all of those loans that were just redeemed come back into your store? Not only your own loan balance, but how do you take it from the competition? So joining me today, I've got our VP of Marketing, and I wanted to welcome Kathleen onto the stage with me to start. Hi, Kathleen.
Awesome. Hey, guys. Thanks so much, Yigal. Thanks for having us. I'm so excited to be here. That music pumps me up. I feel like I should be out doing a workout, but I'm glad that I'm here instead. So thank you for having us. Yeah, I'm excited to be here. As Tali mentioned, we are going to be talking about the 5 lessons we've learned from COVID. These may not necessarily be totally new concepts, right? But when we hit times of crisis, it actually magnifies some things that perhaps were underlying issues that we already knew about, and it creates a sense of urgency. And so I'll walk us through what we're going to cover today. And, as we look at and kind of do a postmortem, what have we learned? I think one of the things we really want to make sure that everybody gets out of this today is what do we take, how do we take that information and how do we apply that going forward to do what we want to do and do it better, right? So we're going to talk about that the status quo hinders growth and what that means. We also want to talk about harnessing the power of integrated platforms. We want to discuss the difference between a vendor and a partner and why during really difficult times like this, a partner can be quite essential. We want to talk about the cloud. We know that this is a huge topic, and we want to address head on some of the concerns that we hear, and then also talk about the importance of reporting always, but in particular when you're trying to manage your business remotely. So Tali and I are going to be kind of emceeing and hosting this and walking through our presentation, really kind of with the voice of tech experts. But more exciting, we have a group of panelists who are joining us today. These are your peers. We have Trevor Rivet, Beth Anandi, Tom Brunzell, and Noel Lowell, who are experts in their field. These are people who have built and grown very successful businesses, and we want to make sure that everybody in the line is hearing from their industry peers what's working, what's not, the lessons that they've learned, and ultimately take action items. So thank you to all of our panelists who have joined us today. It's really a pleasure to have you guys on the line, and I have no doubt that people are going to get quite a bit from what you have to say today.
All right, so let's kick things off with our first lesson. The status quo hinders growth. So one of the things that I hear from pawnbrokers over and over and over again is if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But right now things are broke, and it's the perfect time to fix things. And if you've had that mindset for a long time, and it's been okay because you've been lucky because you have a good location or the other things that make your pawn shop successful, that mindset is going to leave you behind right now. Your competitors are figuring out how to capture all of the loans that are currently out walking on the street, of all of those, that inventory that was just redeemed. And now is the time. You got to step up your game right now. And so what we're going to be talking about a lot of this presentation is, how do you make sure that you win the land grab? How are you prepared? What tools and tech can you use to make sure that you're prepared?
Yeah, so that is an awesome question. And a very simple answer is, well, adaptation must be part of your business model in order to combat, right, getting stuck in that status quo environment. So we're saying here that adaptation is the key to survival. That is true. It perhaps sounds a bit ominous. So if we take a positive posture to this, we might say that adaptation not only helps you survive, it actually helps you thrive. And that a discipline of adaptation is really a strategic way to protect yourself, but also, just like Tally mentioned, to kind of seize the moment and actually start making improvements. So, we had the pleasure of speaking with a handful of our customers a couple of months ago on an Ask the Expert webinar series, and several of them actually reported experiencing record sales numbers. They were kind of able to ride the tailwinds of this crisis and grow during this time. And that's in part because adaptation was a focus. It was part of their culture and their business model. So I just want to tell you a story. When I was 15, one of my first jobs was working at PetSmart. I was an aquatic specialist. Sounds very fancy. I took care of the fish and the birds, but I also took care of the reptiles. And so every time I'd start my shift, there was this chameleon. I loved her. I'd take her out of her aquarium. I'd set her on my shoulder, and the customers loved it, But inevitably, she'd make her way to the top of my head and she'd rest there and she'd turn bright green, which is an indication that she was happy, that she was relaxed, but she was still changing color and adapting. The lesson here is that yes, you adapt to protect yourself from things that are happening in the market, from downturns, from new competitors that are entering, but you should also be adapting during good times when perhaps your business is financially healthy, perhaps you're growing. That's a fantastic time to stop and say, how can we use our resources in the smartest way to be leveraging what's happening around us to continually adapt and to change. So what are we adapting to? There are tons of things that businesses can adapt to, and I would caution that you want to be smart about what you're adapting to and how you're adapting, right? You don't have to be chasing every shift in the market and adapt to it. But if we look at several of the statistics that are reported by Pawn Shop today, so take a look at these stats, there's a few insights that we can take away. First of all, online buying is driving demand for change in a traditional model. This doesn't mean you're abandoning your traditional model. In fact, we see that many pawn shops that are leveraging what's happening now to move into e-commerce, perhaps optimize e-commerce, to maybe move into mobile and some new channels that perhaps they're not as experienced in, are actually seeing increased foot traffic into to their actual physical stores. And so, you're expanding the ecosystem that your customers and that your potential customers, the consumers that are out there, are operating within. The second takeaway here is that your competition, when you look at these numbers, is selling online. If you look at the screen, 75% of pawnbrokers are using some sort of e-commerce channel. 85% are operating a website and using social media. Your competition is in this space. If you're not there, that poses a threat, right? And so it's something worth considering into how do we adapt, seeing the trends that we're looking at on the screen there. Let's look at some. Oh yeah, there we go. Sorry about that, Tally. So again, the takeaway here: you're not abandoning your model. You're simply adapting it to keep pace with competition and really to take advantage of the fact that consumers want to engage with your brand. I want to pause right there. As head of marketing, I've had the opportunity to go into several B2B SaaS companies really with one single kind of purpose, and that's to help build marketing and even sales operations from the ground up. It is pure gold when you have consumers saying, I want to actually talk to you more. I want to engage with you on mobile. I want to look at your website. I want to walk into your store. I want to receive text messages. Consumers aren't pushing us away. They're inviting us in, but they want it seamless and they want it done their way, right? But that's an incredible thing to leverage, and to say, if someone wants to engage with my brand and buy more often from me, then you know what, I'm going to help try to deliver that. So if we look at some of the consumer insights, we see 90% of consumers want omni-channel, right? Meaning you're communicating and you're selling in multiple channels, but it's all integrated. So it's really seamless for them. They want to be able to check you out and do research online. They want to be able to pay their loans easily. And then they want to be able to walk into your store and buy a product that perhaps that they saw on an app or on your website. So there's massive marketing and sales opportunity. If adaptation is part of your discipline. If you take a look at the screen up here, and we see that 52% of consumers have push notifications enabled on their phone, and the average consumer is checking their phone about 50 times a day. Imagine, as that person picks up their phone 50 times a day, if it's your message, your brand that they're seeing on a mobile app, that they're seeing in a text message, right? If that's part of their daily habit, that's really powerful, and those opportunities exist. So adapt to survive. Your competitors are doing this, which means you really need to consider doing this. Or perhaps if you're already doing it, work with your technology vendor to say, how can we be doing it better? Am I getting everything I can out of my current platforms? And then adapt to thrive. Consumers are asking for this, so let's deliver it to them. And lastly, before I turn it back over to Tally, this sort of adaptation, quite frankly, it's not possible without technology. And I'm not just talking, POS or, pawn-specific platforms, right? You may have CRMs or chat platforms or Google Drive to manage your employees. It just isn't possible without the right technology. And here's what I mean by that. Tech is complex, kind of by nature. It can be complex to think about how it integrates with your business model. It can be complex to roll it out and train staff. But technology should never confuse or convolute your business. It should support the underpinnings of your business and then help you scale your business appropriately based on what your objectives are. And Tally will talk more about, how partners really help do that. But smart tech will help you adapt in smart ways. So Tally, I want to turn it over to you now, and you can talk through, some more tangible action items for people to take away from this.
Great, thanks. So one of my main goals of this presentation for you is, one, to hear from industry experts and people working in the industry to share what they've learned over the last 120 days. The next is, I want you to come away with at least 3 action items that you can do over the next 90 days to make sure that your business is not only learning from the past, but is also getting prepared for the future. And so I want to start with a little bit of engagement. Give me something that you've learned in the last 120 days that you want to implement in the next 90. Just one idea, one thing that's going to take your organization and make it a little bit better than it was in February. It can be, that you want to create a way for your customers to be able to request a redemption. That's one that I've heard that I thought was super interesting. Yigal talks a lot about, like, how many email addresses do you have? How are you marketing? How are you communicating? Do you have any in your database? Is that important to you? If you guys can post in the chat, like, what's one thing that you want to implement in the next 90 days? At least start implementing in the next 90 days.
That's me. So let's pause there really quick. I want people to really take the moment. Sorry, I'm jumping in here.
Yeah, that's okay.
Like, whatever you've watched on Power Upon, like, write in the comments so that we can have a conversation with it, and tell asking, like, what's the next thing you're going to implement, right? From whatever you've watched so far, from an event that you went to that you haven't, what are you going to implement so we can have that conversation? Cool.
Yeah, and so I'll start just to get the conversation going, just to get you thinking. So E-commerce, it's through the roof. We just launched a brand new e-commerce site, usedguns.com. We've got Baya, and we've got eBay. And one of the things is like, how do we make sure that we're marketing to our online customers? And so we just signed up with a brand new online digital marketing platform that's going to help us segment customers by how much they bought, by who they bought from, by what they bought. And we're going to start marketing to them in a way more strategic way than we've done in the past. So that's something we've taken away from the last 120 days, and we are going to spend the next 90 days rolling it out. So good news if you're on Baya or Used Guns. We are spending a tremendous amount of energy and time putting together campaigns and a long-term strategy as far as email marketing goes. So some of the other people, David, thanks for participating, converting more to online sales. Adiz, thank you always for being here. Strengthening online sales and add all merchandise, awesome. So keep posting. As you think of things, keep posting. I'm going to flip this over to Beth. So Beth's going to share with us for however long she wants, what she's used, how she's used tech to adapt and some of the results that she's seen as a result of doing so. So Beth, thank you so much for being here, and I'm going to flip it to you.
Thanks for having me. So hopefully you guys can hear me. Can you let me know if you can't? Because I had to turn my sound down because I'm in my car. Just give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Perfect. So some of the ways that we use technology to adapt and sort of conquer the Willamette Valley, or what we think of as conquer the Willamette Valley, was by using the text messaging frequently and using it to not only remind our customers what was going on, but to remind them, send them a courtesy reminder and things like that. It was very easy to do, and it's so simplistic. They have it set up so that you just have to send a reminder, and it's just super easy, and it's very user friendly. The other option that we've used a lot is Baya, and I think they just talked about that, and our company branded website. And what's really cool about the company branded website, or for us, was that people were using the company branded website to go and look at what we had in inventory, and then they would actually just walk in and purchase it, or they would purchase it online and then they would go ahead and come in and grab it. So that was a great way. We didn't think it would work out that way, to have our website online. We thought, oh, if we have it online, they're going to just go ahead and buy it and we'll never see them in our store. But that didn't happen. They ended up coming into our store to purchase the item or purchased it and then walked in to pick it up. So it was actually creating a lot more foot traffic to have the website up and running, which was really cool. Another way that we've started integrating technology was by pulling all of our email addresses. We do use Bravo, obviously, so we were able to pull all of our email addresses and use those, especially during the COVID period, to keep our customers informed. And we started using ways to really, because we were able to be open during COVID, we started using it to allow them to really help them understand what was going on and what would be happening in the store, because COVID was different for everybody. And that's what we did during these last 120 days.
Awesome. One thing just to touch on, and we're going to be talking about omni-channel versus multi-channel a little bit, but one thing specific to customers who are engaged with you in multiple platforms, right? So you've got in-store customers, and then you have an online audience. And a lot of times the online audience matches your in-store audience. And then the people that you have on the mobile app are the same people that are coming through your front doors and interacting with you online. And one of the biggest misconceptions I hear from pawnbrokers is if they're engaged with all these other channels, they're never going to come into my store again. And that's not true. In fact, Walmart, who has one of the stickiest apps, and what I mean by sticky is consumers download it and they love it and they use it and they never delete it. So Walmart's discovered that if you are a consumer with their mobile app, you are twice as likely to frequent their store. It has the opposite effect of actually pushing customers away because they're so self-service. you actually strengthen your brand. There's way more brand awareness. You can brand the mobile app to your company. You've got your company branded site. One of the facts that I always say that surprises people is the customers that use Bias, 94% more in-store sales than those who don't. And that's just because we are literally marketing and pushing people in for in-store sale pickups. They do want to come test it. They do want to come try it. That's the biggest thing about buying something used is you want to see it, you want to try it. And so we push people back in. And the more seamless experiences that you can have and create for your customers, the more likely they are to engage and remember your brand when it's Father's Day. Remember your brand when it's Christmas. Remember your brand during all of these holidays and reasons to shop. You want to be top of mind. And if you're not marketing to them, the big box retailers are, the small businesses are, everybody's starting to really use all of this technology and market. Jump on the train. Jump on the train as fast as you can. So thank you, Beth, so much. All right, let's jump into the second lesson.
All right. Lesson number 2 that COVID has taught us, or really brought to the forefront, is that integrated platforms are very powerful. And Tally's going to talk about why. And that's integrated platforms versus individual point solutions. And if we harness that power, really we're on the path to winning, and it actually enables adaptation. So Beth talked about some great examples, right? Like they had to pivot and start communicating with their customers in a whole new way. And they were able to do that with an integrated platform, and then still have a centralized view right into their customer, even though the customer is interacting through multiple channels. So here's why harnessing the power of an integrated platform is so important. The partner to adaptation is agility. So if you think about the concept of adaptation, right, that can take months, it can take years. If you're agile, adaptation can literally happen overnight, or in a matter of days, or in a matter of weeks. And I mean, we've never seen this at least I haven't in my time, on such a large scale than we have in the past few months with COVID. Businesses were asked almost overnight to change their entire model. Everybody's got to go remote. And the reality is most businesses or a lot of businesses were able to do that without skipping a beat, without losing a lot of lead time in their sales, without really hindering a lot of their operations. And that was because they really did have the right tech enabled, or they got the right tech enabled very quickly. And we did see, that there were winners, and then there were losers, or people who really struggled through COVID. And a huge part of that was people's ability to be agile. So, inevitably, there's always going to be hurdles. We know that as business leaders. And some of those hurdles are really outside of our control, just like we saw with COVID. When you're agile, you can clear the hurdle when others can't, and you can do it faster than your competitors. It's a huge competitive advantage to be agile. The other point that I'd want to make here, because many of you may be at a point where you're considering a variety of different, tech platforms to be implementing or looking to migrate, the technology itself needs to be agile. So can your technology partner, can that technology be easily adapted in order for your partner to continue to provide relevant solutions to you? Your business needs aren't static, right? They change, and they can change rapidly. Can the tech respond in an agile fashion? That's important as you're evaluating technology. And then it obviously needs to enable you to be agile. Can you change things? Can you adapt your business model quickly when things come up? And we believe for these things to happen, there has to be integrations between all channels. At some point, having multiple point solutions, even if they're all good in your tech stack, if they're not integrated, you've kind of just digitized a bunch of inefficiencies and created a bunch of silos. That makes it very hard to gather data and do anything actionable with it. So I want to turn it over to Tally now to discuss really what is a platform versus a point solution. How are we defining those things? And then, what are the advantages of having integrated tech?
Awesome. So here's a diagram. Point platform is on the left side, point solutions on the left, platform solutions on the right. So if you've started your adaptation process, you've probably started adding new services for either your employees or for your customers, and that is awesome. This has been a catalyst for change the last 120 days. You might have a software like Podium that helps you collect reviews. You might have another that helps you generate new leads, another one for texting, maybe one to send emails, one for your internal communication and chat, one for your gun book. Like the list goes on. And so does the technology. And there are the most amazing products and technology for the pawn industry. And when we started in the pawn industry 10 years ago, tech was like an afterthought for this industry. We really didn't have the benefits of other tech platforms that other industries have. It was really lagging. And so you have awesome tools available to you at your fingertips to add. And so hopefully you've started exploring those and adding those products and features and services that make your business stand out amongst your competitors. One thing to be cognizant of is you want to make sure and be careful of how many point solutions you're adding before you decide to see what integrates. And, there is no wrong answer here. You can do lots of things in different silos, or you can start to integrate them all. The problem becomes when you have so many standalone products that you are then hiring headcount to manage the different platforms and be admins of these different platforms. When your day is spent logging in to different products and you have a million usernames and passwords, that's when you want to ask, like, is all of this integrated or is it not integrated? How is your day being spent? Is it monitoring different sites and products? Again, that's probably you want a central place to monitor. So let's talk about, the key advantages of a platform. And this is something that, this is not just you that I'm asking to ask these questions. Like we do this every quarter. Our executive team looks at our entire tech platform. What do we use and how are we using it? Like we use HubSpot for sales and marketing. We use Zendesk for support. We use Slack for internal communication. We use Delighted for customer feedback. We use Typeform for employee customer surveys. We use Loom for video recordings. Like we use a ton of tech. And so you're not alone. If you've got all of these different solutions, you're not alone. Like we have a lot of standalone solutions as well. It's not bad. Let me talk about how you can start to integrate these things. I know a lot of pawnbrokers use Slack, so do we. It's an internal communication platform. We have an integration with Delighted. So anytime, and Delighted talks to Zendesk. So anytime you submit a case for us in Bravo and we solve that case for you, we close the case and you get a survey as our customer. And it says, hey, on a scale of 1 to 5, how was that interaction with us today? The second you answer that, if it's a 1 or a 5 or anything in between, that gets fed into our internal communication platform, Slack, for our entire organization to see. If it's a 5, everybody's like, hey, Antoine, that was really awesome. Like really awesome way to handle that customer, really awesome communication. If it's a 1, I'm like, hey, let's get on a call right now and we need a deep dive into what's going on. How can we make it better for the next customer? This is the way that you can start integrating tools to make sure that you're, in our instance, we're trying to service you pawnbrokers. In your instance, you're trying to serve consumers. So how do you start to make all of this make sense where you're taking the feedback and you're actually making your organization better from the feedback that you get? That is so important. What's super evident post-COVID is that, companies from publicly traded big box retailers to single store pawn shops, the ones that had really integrated platforms were the ones that pivoted the fastest. Mm-hmm. You just had the tech to be able to do that. And so that's a key benefit of platforms. Your ability to automate and run things, from a centralized database. We're going to talk about the cloud in a little while. That's all really integral to how quickly you can pivot and adapt your organization. So again, all of these point solutions, not a bad thing. The thing to be cautious of and pay attention to is when do you want to integrate it? And so I've got a quick, takeaway slide for you. And that is, what are you using? List out all the software. I think you'll be shocked. Like every time we do this exercise, it's like we're using 44 platforms to service our organization. Like it's a lot of platforms. I think you'll be shocked at how many you're using. Then you want to start asking these providers, like, hey, do you talk to anything else? Like, is there any points where I can start to integrate? And some softwares and products, they have integrations that you can use and leverage. The next is, what do you want? What do you want to leverage together? What do you want to integrate? Now you can start making the business decision. Hey, the next platform that we move to, we want to make sure that that's integrated with this, this, and that. And now you can start building a checklist of what's important for you to have it, all tied together. And of course, there's a cost benefit analysis. Are you going to switch? What's the cost in switching? What are you going to gain from having it integrated? It might not make sense right now, but when we're listing our entire inventory for sale, then that's going to be really important. So these are all things, this is an actionable takeaway. This is something that I'd like for you to do as an exercise. If not once a year, like, again, we do this quarterly. So I think the frequency and how quickly you can adapt is really beneficial. And how often are you going into the market and looking what else is out there? Or are you somebody that's been on the same software for 30 years and you haven't ever really looked at what else is out there because it's not broken, so you're not going to fix it? So where do you stand in this? And what's your objective?
Kelly, the other thing I just add there, and again, this is just based on my experience, like implementing a lot of different types of tech as I've gone into companies, is, call the partners, the vendors you're working with, tell them the business requirements. And I just mean like, hey, I want to be able to know, every time a customer makes a sale, so I can push out this automated communication. Does your platform do that? Can you help me do that? Like, these are conversations that your technology vendors should be a part of with you. So you don't have to figure all of that out on your own, but I'd encourage people, just like Tally put together some of those action items. It may take a little bit of time, but it could be worth it. You may realize you have great point solutions and you're just perhaps not maximizing the capabilities there. Or you may realize that there's some serious limitations, right? And then you move into a kind of a research phase to see if there's something else that would work better.
All right, so now I'm going to kick it over to Tom, and he's going to talk about how an integrated platform has advanced his business.
Guys, my name's Tom Brunzell, and I'm from a small suburb right outside of Chicagoland. As an integrated platform, it became apparent in the last 90 days. We're kind of a small solo shop. We only have a small handful of guys. We're one shop, and so grabbing on to major types of implementations, we stepped through cautiously. But our pivot was turning on the SMS and having the Bravo application being turned on, so our customers could then extend their loans online or pick their loans up online and integrate and learn about their loans online. So we turned on all of the apps. We didn't have any of the data. We started collecting it immediately. I saw an advertisement, or not an ad, but a guy using Bravo. He comes out with this stack of receipts saying, look at how many payments happened. We had none of that data. I'm like, that'll never happen to us. But within 2 months, having the backbone to be able to build the app, to be able to extend your loans online, all of a sudden I'm looking at paid loans 4, 5, 6 a night. It was astronomical how many people grabbed onto the app so quickly. Not having the backbone that Bravo has built upon, Microsoft in the cloud, is not going to give you your agility to be able to build these add-ons in your service provider, your software. You won't be able to adapt quickly, kind of without these things in the way Bravo is built. That's one example how it's turned on a dime for us 60 days ago.
Thanks. I'm going to pause here. Does anybody have, maybe if you want to just post in the chat, like, are you here? Is this helpful? Give me some feedback. We're halfway through. Are you all alive?
Yes. So yeah. So if you're watching, and this is, if you're getting some value bombs popped, let us know. So I'm going to post a couple of things. This Facebook user says, actionable takeaway for me is that I need to convert to Bravo to move forward and be more profitable and integrated platform. There you go. You also have some questions, but we'll get to the questions.
Yeah, we'll get
at
to the
end, right?
questions.
Yeah. So Adiz,
Awesome.
of course, says yes.
Thanks, Adiz.
Super. I miss Adiz.
All right, we're gonna roll into lesson 3.
Yeah, let's do it. So this Facebook user says, very
Okay.
cool, Tyler. Good seeing you again. Awesome. Go for it.
Awesome. Great. All right. So lesson 3 is that partners are more important than ever. We're going to talk about the difference here between a vendor and a partner. There is a difference. I'd love actually in the chat for you guys just to put in what you think a partner is versus a vendor, right? What does that company look like perhaps versus a vendor based on your own experiences? But there is a difference, and really depending on the tech you're investing in and why you're investing in it, a partner really might be essential. It should be part of your consideration process. So just a couple of weeks ago at Bravo, I made the decision to implement a new technology for our B2C operations. We use HubSpot for B2B to communicate with all of you, but you need some different capabilities to communicate directly to consumers. And that's not my background. That's not my area of expertise. B2B is my world. And so a huge component of my consideration process was how much hand-holding can I get between these different companies that I'm evaluating. And that was really the deciding factor for me. I looked at a couple of different platforms, fantastic functionality, really intuitive. At the end of the day, I went with the company that I knew was going to set up strategy calls with me every week, was going to help us migrate our data, was going to help with training, was going to set up quarterly strategy calls to make sure we're getting the most, was going to look at our data for us and tell us what we could be doing better. I need that because I don't have that expertise and I don't have it in-house, right? So a partner was essential. Now, other point solutions, it may not be, right? So we want to talk now about the difference between a vendor, between a partner, and then also provide some insights on, when a partner might be really essential and other times when you can forego that.
So partners and vendors are a choice, right? All we want you to take away is that it's your choice to make. You don't have to choose a vendor and you don't have to choose a partner. That's something that when you're deciding on new technology, you get to pick what's important to you. Adding new products to your software, it's important to determine this ahead of time. There's no wrong answer here. If you're in a relationship with a vendor, but you wish it was a partner, then you can try to change that. There's no wrong answer. We just want to, I guess, outline what does a partner feel like when you get with a partner? My company particularly, like, we're a partner. That's part of our mission statement. Our mission statement is to delight our customers in a partner relationship. You're going to get that with us because that's what our employees rally around. But again, that's not the case for every software that you choose, and that's okay. So Kathleen, you want to walk us through what a partner feels like?
Yeah, and I'm seeing some awesome things in the chat. Lisa talks about innovation. You can see that that's on the screen. How do you determine if a company is innovative? That seems a bit subjective. Are there consistent product releases? Do they have a product roadmap? These are questions you can ask a vendor. They're ones I do when I'm assessing technology for Bravo that we might be investing in. What's on your roadmap? How often do you do product releases? Can I speak with a reference, right, who can talk about that? So innovation, awesome, Lisa. Lori talks about the fact that a vendor is more transactional. They're selling you something, or a partner is really coming alongside to help make your business better. I agree with that assessment, right? There's a supportiveness, a responsiveness with a partner that a vendor doesn't have. Again, that's not because a vendor is necessarily bad. It may not be necessary if, right, the technology is helping you with one small thing in your business. You may not need a partner. Really, if you're looking for much more a collaborative experience after you purchase, so you've signed the contract, you've handed over a check, what do you want? How do you want to be treated? And what are your expectations for handholding and for help and for ongoing support? Depending on how you answer that question, right, that's going to indicate to you whether or not you need or want a vendor or a partner. The other thing that we'll add here is you do sometimes pay more for a partner. You're paying for the support. There's a cost to that, but there's a huge benefit. And so many times we talk about with the vendor, that tech becomes an expense, even if it's doing great and necessary things for your business. Or as a partner, we really talk more about the fact that you're investing. It's an ongoing relationship. It's a partnership, and that's different. And as I mentioned, right, you may want to assess, do I have resources in-house that can manage this and implement and train? Awesome. Maybe I don't need a partner. If not, strongly consider asking several questions like, what does your onboarding process look like? How will you train me? Will you help me manage this change and implement this and roll this out to my employees? What's your retention rate look like? How long do your customers stick around? Speaking of which, you'll see on here that there's, we talk about an organization being customer centric. And again, this isn't just for your pawn systems, for any of the tech that you're using. Are those partners asking for your feedback proactively? Are they taking that and soliciting your ideas, saying what's not working, what could we do better? Are they providing surveys? Are they giving you a platform to have your voice being heard? And then are they taking that and actually applying it to product development? Basically, your partner should be working for you. Tally and I recently attended a really fantastic conference, and we listened to some speakers talk about big companies who are making, CX or customer experience really central to their business model. And they talked about the fact that basically the CSMs, or the customer support managers, and the customer support teams, they're essentially, they're your advocates, right? We have people like that on our staff, but they're your advocates. It's like they're your employees working for you, looking out for your best interests, but they're on our payroll. That's what it should feel like if someone's really a partner. And then, of course, you want them to be employee centric. Are their employees happy? Are they growth minded? And there were a few other things. So Tally, if you want to give some actionable items on how to spot a partner. Oh, I think you're muted. There you go.
I think these are just some of the questions that you can ask. And again, you can tailor this not only for your point of sale, but for any tech that you're looking at adding. And so, I'm not going to read this slide to you, but you want to ask, for their release notes, as an example. If innovation is important to you, if this is a platform that you're going to need to pivot quickly, like, have they been able to pivot quickly before? If they don't have a track record of it, you can't all of a sudden expect that that's going to become something that they are all of a sudden innovators. Customer satisfaction, do they have metrics for you? Do they share those openly? Customer satisfaction, CSAT is what it's called. That would be a tech term that you can ask any tech provider. Hey, what's your CSAT? NPS is another one, Net Promoter Score. That's another metric that tech companies track. So, what's your NPS? These are important metrics. If they don't know, then they're probably not tracking it. And you want to make sure that, the customer experience is being really carefully tracked. And then, the company that you choose is only as good as its employees. And I believe that to my core. There's sites out there that can help you determine that. Before we partner with any tech platform, we go to Glassdoor. There's other sites too, whatever you choose, but it's important that you're doing like the full research. And again, just making the decision, vendor, partner, what do you want? What are you looking for? What's your budget? Do you want to spend more because you don't have the internal resources to help you do this? These are all really important questions to ask. No wrong answer here, just information.
I just want to say thanks to Micah for the
I'm going to skip through this slide. Yes, thank you. Noel didn't make it. If you were on our last webinar, he also barely made it. So I'm going to have to wring his neck later. We're going to move into how the cloud is critical. Like Kathleen said, we were on this really awesome thing last week, and it was iterated over and over, which was the cloud won. The debate is over. The cloud won, no matter what. I know that pawnbrokers are very attached to the in-store server, and they think, I'm never going to move to the cloud. I like the data where I am. I have it. I can see it. I like the server in the store. That's fine. How you implement cloud technology into your operation is the decision. And all I'm prompting you to do is to evaluate it and to continue to evaluate it. 10 years ago when we launched, our number one question was, what happens if Bravo goes down and I'm scared to be in the cloud? That's no longer the top of mind question. In 10 years from now, I mean, I can't even imagine that we're going to be talking about in-store servers anymore. The industry has pivoted. How are you using cloud? And some people say, like, I can't use cloud, but are you using cloud for your point of sale? Are you using it for your security cameras? Are you using it for your time clock? There's lots of little pieces of the puzzle here that you can start using the cloud for. And again, it's a comfortability level. Like, it's not everybody wants to jump into a cloud-based point of sale. That's okay. I'm not saying that you should do that tomorrow. But there are other pieces of your business that you should definitely be leveraging cloud technology. Time clock is a great example. Security cameras is a great example. Start leveraging the cloud in little bits of your business where you can do so comfortably. Again, like, I think moving outside of your comfort zone right now, it's a good idea. That's up to you on how far you want to move outside of what you're comfortable with. But just, one thing in the next 90 days or 120 days, move it to the cloud, see how it works, get more comfortable with it. It's not going anywhere. And in fact, internet's only going to be getting better and better and better and better. Nobody's not investing in cloud technology. So just a little bit of feedback on, again, what we're hearing as a tech company when we go to conferences. The tech is alive, the cloud is alive and well, and it's not going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah. I had mentioned before, right, that, and we all know this, overnight, businesses were asked to run their businesses remote. You had to manage employees in your operations remotely. You had to be able to connect with and communicate seamlessly with customers almost overnight outside of your traditional brick and mortar. Everyone in the company needed immediate access to company, store, and customer data. Everyone needed a secure way to collect and store and transfer that data, right, between stores or between employees. The reality is this would not have been possible, without the cloud. If somebody said to us 20 years ago, hey, overnight, the entire workforce across the globe almost has to, start working remote and every business has to figure it out, there would have been an absolute panic. That was able to happen because, in part, because of the cloud. And, when we look at the fact that, like, resources in the cloud, they can be stored easily, retrieved, recovered, and processed with just a few clicks. That's part of what we're talking about here when we talk about the fact that mobility is a must, and that all your users, all your employees can access everything that they need. So to Tally's point, a great way to just, I think, kind of mitigate the worry or the anxiety around this is, for all of us to be educated about it. That's, again, why we go to the conferences we do. We want to be educated about these things and then share those. So just a couple of key advantages, right? There's efficiency and cost reduction. Like, there's no huge expense for purchasing and maintaining equipment. You're not having to hire anybody in IT necessarily to handle your cloud data. That's being done through your cloud provider. Downtime is extremely rare in cloud systems, very rare. So you're not spending time and money on fixing potential problems. You're not losing sales necessarily because everything's down. The other thing is the security in the cloud is incredible. There's so many advanced security features that really guarantee that data is securely stored and that it's handled. And there are baseline protections that platforms, right, have to abide by, and like authentication, we see access control. And
Can you guys hear me?
yeah.
Oh, we lost Kathleen. Go ahead, Kathleen. Sorry about that.
Oh, I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we lost
okay.
you for a second.
Mobility, right, which we touched on. Your business essentially is accessible to everybody from anywhere, which is fantastic. Updates are done automatically. Imagine your iPhone, right? You automatically get these updates on your iPhone. Great, now I have more enhancements. Imagine if you had to walk into a store and get all your apps removed and re-download your apps or buy a new piece of hardware. Like, we wouldn't we wouldn't think that was a great experience, right? With the cloud, updates are just happening automatically to your software. There's disaster recovery things that are in place. And really, when we think about sensitive data, and we know that security, that's an awesome question to ask. We should be asking it. You have so much control over that sensitive data. You can easily decide which users have which levels of access. And in fact, when we look at a lot of like cyber concerns, it's really the negligence on the part of us or our employees sending really sensitive information through, unencrypted, unsecure, email sites, leaving customer information sitting on a desk. Those are the kinds of things that actually can be quite insecure. And the cloud is a very secure platform, which Tally's going to talk about. And part of that is because you really own the control over your data.
So I'm going to boogie through the next few slides just to make sure we have enough time. The most frequently asked question about the cloud is it secure, and how can I be sure that it's secure? There are, four ways that, reasons why data is more secure in the cloud. There's no wrong answer as far as, choosing to go into the cloud or not. There is a wrong answer in what your due diligence is making sure whether your information is protected. And you're not just looking for whether your information is protected if it's in the cloud. Some of the most susceptible programs are ones that are in-store on-prem services. So you just want to make sure that, you want to have the data that's the most susceptible to breach as protected as possible. You need to protect yourself. At the end of the day, the data, it's your responsibility, and you need to make sure that you protect it. When you go and you talk to vendors and partners, you need to make sure that they're protecting it as tightly as you want them to. And if you're comfortable with keeping data in the cloud, you're going to reap the benefits and rewards that you're unable to with on-prem servers. So that's just a little bit about that. I'm going to jump into having Tom tell us a little bit why he chose the cloud and what it's been able to do for his business. And I'll save the security questions if you have them for the end.
Yeah,
So,
I'm starting to feel like an old guy in the pawn business, because when we started, it was only you either worked on your server in your shop or you hand wrote a ticket. And being somebody in the cloud, what is the cloud? A cloud is a managed server. So the Bravo team is managing your server. So you have a section there with them. This because the way that Bravo was built, I came from a tech background, and so at the time they were built on the Microsoft.NET platform. This goes right to what Kathleen was talking about. Because they're in the cloud and built on a .NET platform, it gives them the agility to build the newest of new as fast as it can be built. They have an architecture that's already structured to be able to plug in an app or a website or integrate with a new third-party service that they want to sell for. Because of the way they were built 10 years ago, they are already so much out in the forefront on having that solution and being able to plug in like that. But it also goes to the stackable solution that Tally was talking about, is that now, because all of these things are coming together on this one architecture that we have, I don't have to plug in a second address ever again. I don't have to type in a second phone number ever again. I've all of these steps that I tripled and doubled my whole pawn career have all been minimalized, saving time for the customer, because it was all built right on the proper architecture in the cloud.
Thanks. Awesome.
Sure.
Okay, so we've got about 5 minutes until our hour is up. I want to make sure that we're giving Trevor time to talk, because metrics is his thing. And so our last lesson is really tied to reporting and how reporting, and if you're good at it and you use the tools that are at your fingertips, really offers peace of mind, span of control, adaptability, agility. You're going to be able to move a lot quicker. I'm going to skip through that slide and just show a little bit about, one of my favorite sayings in leading a company is that you can't manage what you don't measure. And so there's two things on metrics, KPIs, dashboards. one, you need the data, and two, you might need help interpreting the data. So during COVID specifically, one thing that was really important is how quickly can you communicate with customers? How quickly can you segment your data? How quickly can you pull, who's been in my store in the last 2 months? Who has an active loan out? Who has, transacted with me in the last 30 days? How are you able to segment this, and how are you marketing and communicating with them? I was so impressed. I think Lisa's on here. She was the first Facebook Live video that I saw that was communicating with her customers about what was going on. And the reality is during COVID, things were changing like every day. Store hours were changing, protocol were changing, whether the store was open or closed was changing. And she was so on top of it. It actually inspired me, like, wow, she's communicating with her customers that well, that frequently. I need to be communicating with our customers that frequently in that type of format. So Lisa, if you're still on, you were an inspiration to me during this time in how to communicate with customers and using the data to be able to do that. We're in the financial business. Pawn brokers are a financial institution. The best operators are the ones that really know their numbers and know their business. Of course, there's a difference in the type of data that's collected, the depth and the quantity, and how it's available to you. That's a question for your software vendor or partner or whoever you're using. What kind of data is accessible to me? And then the last question regarding data is, can you access it remotely? Can you have the reports emailed to you? Can you view them from an app? Like, how accessible and at your fingertips is the reporting? And especially in this time, like when you're not in your store every day, do you still have a pulse on your business? Do you still know what's going on? Are you still comfortable? So I'm going to flip this right into Trevor to talk a little bit about how reporting and KPI tracking, especially during this time, how he was able to do that, manage his operations, how he was able to adjust according to some of the reports. And I think he's going to give you a few ideas of reports and numbers that he looks at that maybe you should be looking at too.
Okay, thanks, Tally. So our doors were closed by government order for almost 2 months during the COVID crisis. And during this time, we made ourselves available for loan redeems, and we used our website to sell online for both shipping and curbside pickup. When we reopened, we had a greatly reduced loan balance and inventory levels, and I'm hearing the same thing from a lot of pawnbrokers that I talk to. Reduced loan balance means that less interest is going to be collected in the coming months. So surviving, growing, and taking advantage of current opportunities requires doing things better and more efficiently than ever. A big part of that for me is being able to remove myself from daily operations and focus on planning and strategy. Being able to monitor the most important KPIs from my store from home or from the office or anywhere but from behind the loan counter is essential to that. This applies not just to people who want to run their operation remotely during COVID crisis, but really anyone who wants to have an effective multi-store operation. You simply cannot be at every store every day checking on things. You need effective reporting to be able to do that remotely. I love building custom reports with Bravo's ad hoc reporting. I monitor the main KPIs that you would see in pretty much any standard reports, but also I design a lot of extras to help me detect problems before they have too much impact on my bottom line. Running these extra reports allows me to see what changes to procedures that we do are actually improvements instead of just changing. And what kind of marketing techniques are actually effective, especially from a cost point of view. I put all of this stuff together in a monthly performance report that I go over with my managers. I know we don't have a whole lot of time here, but I'll try to breeze through some of them. So loans, obviously, super important for everybody. Everyone's already looking at their loan balance, their forfeit ratio, hopefully their loan yields. But there's some other interesting things you can look at, like your loan service rate, which is sort of the difference between your actual interest collected and the potential you have. If there's a discrepancy between those two numbers, that could indicate problems, loans not getting paid on. Why not? Are staff giving free extensions? Are they writing bad loans? One simple number can show you a whole bunch of things that are going on in your store without you even being there. I look at my extension ratio, how many loans are getting extended versus redeemed, to monitor whether my employees are offering the extension the way they should. And I run reports showing when customers were last contacted for overdue loans. Employee productivity is a big one. Are your employees profitable? Are they generating enough revenue from sales and from interest collected to pay their own salaries? That's something really important to look at. I use that all the time to make the decision when to add and remove hours from the schedule. And especially post-COVID, it's so hard to predict where our sales and loans are going to be going. So looking at this lets me know when I should be recalling more staff that I had to lay off when we were closed. From a retail standpoint, cash flow is king. Managing the inventory is vital to managing your cash flow. So you need to monitor your intake. Your intake is your buys, your loan forfeits, your vendor purchases. Compare that to your cost of goods. That'll let you know whether your inventory value is going up or down. If you really want to dive into it, look at that for each category to see if you have some categories that are performing better than others. Obviously, aged inventory is a problem for a lot of pawn shops. Turn and burn is the way to go. That's how you maintain your cash flow. Bravo has a feature where you can do bulk inventory markdown. So every single day in my shops, we run an aged inventory report and we mark down all the stuff that becomes aged and get rid of it. Customers, how many new customers are coming in? What are those customers doing? Are they getting loans the first time? Are they doing sales the first time? What percentage of them are coming back? How many customers do you have that did $500 in transactions and have not been back in the last 90 days? You could get a report, print those out, export them to MailChimp, or I think we can even contact them directly through Bravo, through texting, and contact those customers, give them a reason to come back. And you use your customer reports to see what marketing techniques are working for you, which ones are not. And you should know what it costs to get a customer and what the lifetime value of that customer is. And I think that's my very quick rundown of everything I look at.
That was super awesome. Thanks, Trevor. All right, so we are going to wrap things up. I'm going to let Kathleen do a recap. While she's doing that, if you have questions for any of us, go ahead and post them in the chat. I'll start reading them, try to moderate them, and get it answered as quickly as possible. I have the little time ticker up in the corner, and I can tell that we're over. So Kathleen, take it away.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you again to everybody who joined us. Thank you to our panelists. There's a lot of takeaways there, but really, I think the last thought here is, we talked about the 5 lessons. Over on the right, you see the 5 takeaways. Perhaps identify 1 or 2 areas that you feel you're excelling at, and then sit down with your team and figure out how to optimize that, right? If you're doing well, that's a strength of yours, leverage it right now. Alternatively, I'd also challenge everybody on the line to say, what are 1 or 2 items on this list? Perhaps agility or adaptation. You feel like, I struggled with that. And you know what? If something like this were to happen again, I don't know, that we'd be set up in a great way for it. And sit down with not just your management team and leadership team, but I would encourage you to sit down with people of all levels. Put some of those, some of those things that you're struggling with on the table and talk through those, right? In ways that you feel like you can strengthen those. And I'd also say, any tech vendors or any tech partners that you're working with, once you have some of those things identified, make some time to lean on them as well and say, hey, this is what we're trying to accomplish, and can you help us get there? So those are our takeaways. A big thank you to everybody. And then, as always, you can get in touch. Tally's email is up there. My email is up there as well, or you can visit the website, give us a call.
Awesome. So I was going to plan on, Yigal, is it okay if I answer a few of the questions that I saw in the chat quickly? Okay.
Please. First of all, I want to say how incredible that was. So much information, so much value. That was epic. I hope my screen changing was cool.
You're great.
If you want to answer questions, I'll just go ahead. Take it away.
Okay, so Sam, to answer the question about texting, opt-in, opt-out, permission, marketing, notifications, Bravo does simple DNT, do not text, do not contact, and our app makes it so that you can opt out of notifications. Once you opt out, you opt out. And Bravo doesn't have the capability right now to say, I want to be able to send notices, but not marketing material. That might become tighter in the future, and software providers might be required to have that. For now, we just don't. It's on or off, and once a customer opts out, they have to re-opt back in to receive any types of notifications. So I think that answers that. The best, most effective method to communicate with clients is, I think, looking at the data, right? So text messages are the most frequently opened, quickest opened type of communication you can possibly do. Push notifications, I think Kathleen had a slide up 53% or something like that of people have push notifications enabled. I think different methods of communication are good for different things. And you want to be using an assortment of all of them. So if you have their email address, use that email address, use that data that you have to bring them into your store for a certain promotion, track it. Like if you want your technology to be able to track, like, how did they hear about us? What brought them in? Like, do you have a view of all of the times that you contacted a customer and by what method? Track it, look at the data, and customers might be different across, different demographics. They might be different across different states, and how they want to engage with your company the most. I think that might depend. So hopefully that answered that. I think that's all of the questions that I saw. Yigal, did you see any others?
I didn't. Obviously, first of all, if you guys have another question, please post it. If you're watching the replay and you want to post a question, just post a question. I'm sure Talia or Kathleen will jump in and answer. With that said, I do want to give a power up, a round of applause to the Bravo team. So if you want to give a round of applause, we write A in the chat box. If you really liked it, you write A, like a standing ovation. So give them a round of applause. Thank you so much. Trevor and Tom, thank you so much for being here as well. I'm going to escort both of you off the stage really quick. And that's just a click of a button. So to Tally and Kathleen, thank you so much for sponsoring Power Up as well. And for it was just epic information of, I'm looking at different softwares for my business. And now you've given me kind of like a roadmap of like what to ask to make sure that my mastermind members are, contacted correctly. I see everything. And so it's awesome. So you guys are getting tons of, standing ovations and big rounds of applause from everybody coming in. Awesome. Very, very cool. Again, if you have a question watching the replay, go ahead and ask. I'm sure Talia or Kathleen can jump in and answer that. So guys, thank you so much once again.
Thank you so much for having us. Thank you so much for watching in the middle of your day in a time that's so crazy. We really appreciate everybody being here and engaging with us. This was super fun. And we love you, Yigal. Anytime we can support you.
Love it. Thank you so much.